Welcome to Resource Thursday with Redstor. I'm your host, Paco Lebron. This is a place to learn how to run your IT service business, whether you're a one person shop or leading a team for the journey. This is the place for you. Let me go ahead and introduce my illustrious co host. We have none other than Rick Smith over at Renactus Technology. Rick, how are you today?
Doing good, Paco. Can't complain. Can't complain at all. It's Thursday, so.
Because who's going to listen? Or what I like to say, Friday Junior. And
Friday
we have,
Junior. I never, you know what, dude? I never heard that before, so I'm not going to allow you to introduce me before you give that term some extra ample airtime there. So that was awesome, man.
Uh, and for those that are hearing his voice yet again, we have none other than the infamous, the illustrious, one
Yes,
and only Matt Scully. Matt Scully over at Redstor, who is now the channel chief over at Redstor. Matt, how are you today?
I'm good, man. How are you, Rick and Paco? Awesome to see you guys. Love being on your show.
Yep. No, it's
Thanks
always a
for
pleasure to
coming.
have you. It's always a pleasure to have you on. It's always a good time. For those that don't know who Matt Scully is, why don't we go ahead and just jump right in and just talk a little bit more about who Matt is?
Okay, so Matt is a, I guess you would consider me a channel veteran. I've been in the channel for 8 years. Started off with Datto, had a good run with them, and then went to an email security firm. And then I am with Redstor. I've been with Redstor since the 4th of July as the channel chief. So a lot of my job is to go to different shows, act as an ambassador to Redstor, listen to MSP, speak to them, find out what they're looking for, make sure that it's talked into our development departments, and just act as again as that liaison between the channel community and our company.
Very cool, very cool. And yeah, if you have not heard Matt speak before, we had him on the previous interviews as well, also in person. It's always a good time with Matt Scully. But Matt,
Yeah.
I appreciate you taking the time to come out and really talk about Red Star, right? I think for a lot of us, we have heard the name,
Mhm.
but don't know really what Red Store does, right? So can you give us a little bit information of who/what Red Store is and what it can offer managed service providers and IT solution providers?
Yeah, so it's funny you said that, right? Because I did a show or a pitch. This was about maybe 2 weeks ago, and there was about maybe 350 people on the call, and 54% of the people said that they have not heard of Red Store before. Right. And if you had asked me on January 1st, 2022, who Red Store is, I would have been part of that 54%. So what point being is that we are very, very well known, established, and recognized and rewarded in the UK as well as the South African markets. Matter of fact, if you were to look at that G2 ratings, the independent rating platforms, we are the highest rated backup software in those markets, okay, and leading
Mm,
in 16 different categories with our competitors. Well, that's
mm,
great, right? That's awesome. And so what we're looking to do is we're going to bring our talents, as LeBron says, to the other LeBron, the second
right,
LeBron,
right.
right? To take our talents and bring them to North America. So that's been a task of ours. I was hired again as July 4th. Mike, the CRO Hanauer, as I'm sure some of you guys know, he was hired, I want to say, in April. And now we've got industry veteran Doug Sawyer and a bunch of other guys out there to go and try to make this thing happen. So we have the technology, right? We have the ways that MSPs can make money off the technology. What we need to do is just bring the people, and that's where I'm tasked. So excited to be here at Red Store. Like any company, before I join, I do have a group of MSPs who I speak to regularly, and they took a look at the technology and they said, "Wow, this is something of the future," and that's why I'm excited to represent them.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned Red Store obviously is a backup software, but you also mentioned that there's some different technologies as well that are applied to it. Can you tell us a little bit more on what Red Store does as a backup company? Is
Sure.
it more file and backup? Is it file image screenshot? Is
Mhm.
it cloud? Is it all of the above? Can you
Sure.
tell us a little bit more of the offerings that Red Store has?
So what you're going to see on every one of our banners, onto our website, we're going to scream it as loud as we possibly can. We are a smarter smarter backup and recovery company. Okay, that is what we do. It's a smarter way. So you're basically taking a look at a lot of traditional backup approaches, and we're pointing out how antiquated they are. We are a cloud first company, okay, meaning in a sense that our backups are, we don't have any hardware, and you're going to see that that is the direction of this industry. You know, if you were to
Mhm.
look at some of the recent reports, we did one that 60% by 2024, there's going to be all cloud strategies. That's going to go up 60%. AI is going to be at a $5 billion company. And when we
Mhm.
see in 2025 is that over 90% of CEOs are going to rely on AI for their workload strategies. Okay, so we recognize things are moving to the cloud, and then like if you were to go to like the DattoCons, ASCIIs, and Channel Pro and all that stuff, you know, you're going to see a whole new set of vendors, next gen vendors, as opposed to the traditional ones that we've seen, because we're going to be taking this data and they're going to have to find ways to analyze it and maximize its potential. That's over there. That's the reason why we're looking to go into that smarter model. So what does that mean for us, right? We infuse AI in our backups. Okay, so what they do, AI goes in and they detect if there's any type of malware. If there is, we identify it, we put it in a quarantine. You can mark it as safe, or you can address it. Okay, that's one major thing on there. So if you were to look at some of the more recent industry breaches, we would have been one of the few companies that would have caught that using AI.
Mm.
Another part of AI that we do is we identify where sensitive information is on your network. So let's just say that I am Matt, the salesman, and I have a bunch of social security numbers or credit card numbers on my laptop right on my home screen there. We identify that and say, hey, look, you should put this into a much more secure location.
Mm.
But another form of where we are, working towards that smarter is that we have an application called Red App, okay, which comes with the Redstor experience. That regardless of what you're backing up, whether it's Kubernetes, which is Azure, whether it's O365, whether it's on-prem, desktop, you name it, servers, okay, all of your backup efforts are managed through one single app, like one single app.
Mm.
And I know from in this, being in this industry, that a lot of companies say that they could do that, but actually you could do it on one single app. So you can provision, you could manage backups, you could deploy services all through one single app. So with that, obviously comes the need for support, which we're able to offer you through our, partner program. We have the right messaging, we have the right vehicles to get that out there. And it's just, again, coming onto shows like yours, in case there's a couple people that may not have heard of us, are now given the opportunity to do so.
Nice. No, yeah. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, and what really caught my, so for my purposes, like I heard of Redstor. One of our colleagues, Joe K, over in Indiana, started using Redstor as one
Mhm.
of the few backup products he's trying out and looking into, and he was really impressed by it. And exactly like you mentioned, he said that popular in the UK, very strong presence, trying to make a splash here in the North America, and really trying to understand kind of what Red Store was, because as you know, Matt, being that you have been in the industry for so long, when you hear another backup company being introduced in the industry, it's like, all right, well, we have all of these vendors here, and you have to catch them at the right, catch an MSP or an IT solutions provider at the right time to
Mhm.
switch a backup company, right?
Mhm.
So once I saw you all at ASCII and understanding, as you mentioned, the smarter, having the smarter backup, the smarter way of doing things, really caught my eye on trying to learn more. And then obviously, you and I are friends for a very long time. When you joined, it
Mhm.
just caused me to be even more
Wow.
interested and curious as well. And so that's kind of where we kind of got familiar with Redstor. But there was something else that you mentioned as well, which I think highlights how you're improving the services for managed service providers, IT solution providers with backup, is the AI component. And
Mhm.
it's not a fluff AI where they say, oh, it's a bunch of rules that you have to input in, and you kind of write out. You've actually mentioned where it's actually AI doing the job of what needs to be done and highlighting in that avenue. Rick, when it comes to being able to manage, and I think this is a constant question, right? Because backups have become such a critical piece in everyone's business over the last 18, 24, even further back, trying to recover from various incidents, whether it's disaster, whether it's ransomware, where it's etc. But when it comes to something like this for you, how imperative or how important or great it would be to introduce something that could improve your services, where you had AI kind of taking a look at something that could result in not having to do a lot of that manual work.
Well, it's definitely important. It's one of those things where, again, you don't know something until someone introduces it. It's not something I would have necessarily thought about in the beginning, but that's what makes it special, what makes it smart. Because when someone comes up with an innovative way of approaching it, or something different, and you say, "Hey, I didn't think about it that way," or because everyone thinks a backup is just traditional backup. Back it up, have it someplace safe in case, like you say, any of the different disasters occur, so you can basically have it under protection. But it's not, the AI portion of this, and I may be saying this wrong, but it's actually protection for the protection. So it,
Said perfectly.
so it definitely makes a difference, and it you address it and you look at it now a little differently. So it does make it more, it makes it more important now, just because it's possible.
Yep. So I mean, here's the thing. Okay, is that if you look at challenges right now, okay, like one is ransomware, right?
Mhm.
We're tired of ransomware. I've been talking about ransomware since 2011, but I
Mhm.
get this every single month. It's from I think it's from Black Fog, and it's it shows you where ransomware is trending every single month, and shows you all the the locations where it got hit, right? Ransomware is higher and trending now in September. I know we're in October, but in September of 2022 than it was in September of 2021 and September 2020, which were record high ransomware trends. So it's gotten like hackers. What they do is they go to beat today's solutions, right? Like hackers are trying to go and try to circumvent today's security solutions, right?
Right.
So which always means is there's going to be this weird ebb and flow. Like, okay, all right, we've got a security measure and we're confident of it. At that time, there's a bunch of hackers that are trying just to try to break into that. So it's going to always be this vicious cycle. So we got to kind of like think different. We got to kind of act different. The other thing also is that there's so much data that's coming everywhere. Like like we're getting we're in a digital world, right? No matter where you are, you got so much data that people don't know how to process it. People don't know what to do with it. And what happens is that you can't back up what you don't see. Meaning, in the sense that traditional approaches are only going to be able to do what you know, um, traditional problems were. We're not living with traditional problems, right?
Right.
We're dealing with tomorrow's data fragmentation, another one. Like like there's a whole like secondary third copy of data that is not used for business operations, like caches of data, right? Like in smart TVs, you have to go in back in there and you have to clear the caches, in order for your the applications to work. So you have this big huge thing where you've got the threat, you've got this overload of data, and you just don't know how to properly back it up because it's not working. You have to lean on AI to take it to that next level. And if you look at our world, right? Like tomorrow I'm going to Milwaukee. All right. When I'm walking into the gate, I'm using AI for clear, right? To look at my eyes or my
Mhm.
thumbprints. Okay. And then what I do is I get onto the plane and then I'm go onto Netflix, and there's gonna be movies that are suggested to me by my viewing habits, right? That's AI. Or if I want to listen to music, Spotify, or if I listen to Alexa, all these different forms of AI, which is great. But the more that we lean on it, the more that we become dependent on it, the more vulnerable we come towards that, right? So that's where we're talking about. At the very core of that is data, and how are we protecting that data in a smarter fashion.
Right. I mean, I think you really talked as far as like, just the evolution and how things were done, especially in the example of ransomware, where, before we used to do on-site backups, right?
Hmm.
Whether that was plugging in a USB drive or going ahead and putting a NAS drive there. and unfortunately ransomware started eating out through all that like it was just nothing, right? And so the leverage in cloud backups was really starting to hit high. Then now they were starting to change the passwords and get into the vaults of the cloud backups and start deleting the backups from on site on the cloud, depending on
Hmm.
how the cloud vendor handled their backups. So now we're in a position now where, like you just said, that we now have to think further ahead, and can't continue to keep doing business the way we have been doing before. And but what does that mean? How does that look like? And so it has to take forward thinking vendors, forward thinking people to really figure out, all right, we have all of this around us. How are we not applying this to ourselves and really trying to figure out, okay, what are we doing to not only just make sure we're protected, right, and mitigate the risk, but also how do we improve not only the way that we're doing it, whether that is improving the services, how do we, cash in on the ability to do this, because this is a service. This is something that we want to bring to our clients to be able to provide an opportunity for them to understand, hey, look, we can do this. There is this thing here, but the investment that was made toward here is going to be an investment from you as well if we want to get to the greater picture of downtime, not having the downtime, and really figuring out, okay, this is going to be worth it for us as well. Because you just mentioned something too, which I don't know if people kind of came off of that, and I'll ask Rick a little bit about this, is that, how valuable is your client's time, and how valuable is your own time, because it's a two-way street. You're implementing these solutions. How is it improving your time frame on trying to even A, deploy it, B, understand it, and B, and C, test it, but also how to be able to get your client back up and running when they do need something. So Rick, when it comes to time, and how I felt about time when we talked about this on Tuesday, when it comes to time and trying to value time for your client and yourself, how does that kind of apply to the services you're trying to deploy, let alone something that's as pivotal as a client's data that they're trying to get back or just mitigate and protect?
Well, you think about it this way. We can use all of the tools we want and all of the strategies we want, right? To approach a client and say, hey, we do this, we do this. The most important thing a client cares about is downtime, because that's when you lose money, right? So that's where we have to make sure we're on, for lack of a better term, on the cutting edge, or we're able to get them back and up and running as fast as possible, because that eliminates for them, a loss, a financial loss, and an inconvenience loss, right?
Yeah.
So it's definitely probably one of the things we overlook, but it's the most important factor. Forget all the tools, forget all of the service, all of the fancy names, all the customer cares most about. I need to be able, me and my employees need to come in. We need to be able to work. We need to be able to make money. So all the other things we describe to them, they don't really care until until it impacts them. So time is what I guess when we always talk about the benefits, selling the benefits, this is what this is the main benefit for a client, is the downtime. Or, because, and I'll say this, I hate using the term, but it's true. Everybody at some point is going to experience this, right? We're gonna, it's not we always say it, we got to say it. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when,
When, yep.
right? And we have to be prepared to take win and turn it into, back up quick. We're ready to roll back quick. So, to sum it up, time is the extreme importance. And I know we had this conversation on Tuesday about time, and I'm thinking of something else, but what we have to is basically make sure that we can have them running up and running as fast as possible.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I remember Scully, when we were in Chicago. Well, this must have been pre-pandemic, so back in like 2019, and you had this presentation that you were really talking about time and how important time is to both the end user and to the managed service provider as well. And there was something that you specifically said was, it wasn't the amount of time that it took for being able to get back up the data and restore the data. It was the matter of what is the time frame, or the pain of your client. How much can they not suffer, but basically how much pain are they willing to take on to get their data back, right? And,
Yeah.
and it was such a discussion where you didn't really think about it, because we're always thinking about speeds and feeds, and how you were kind of talking, you were like, really, like, you have to get back down to the empathetic level of what is your client thinking right now, and
Yeah.
that's the service you really have to figure out you want to apply to. Not sure if you want to elaborate more on that and kind of that
Yeah.
methodology, but
Yeah. I can speak more education. I could speak smarter on that because of even that has changed. We have a product that comes with the Redstor experience. It's called Instant Data. Okay, it literally gets you your data instantly.
mm,
Instantly. Okay, 3 clicks, and you have your data right there. Historically, you'd have to wait for something to download. Now we stream. Yeah, it's sort of
mm,
like Netflix, right? Like if let's just say you want to go and you want to watch, you're in the Windy City, you want to watch whatever, The Last Dance. You'd have to wait for that entire movie to download, then you're able to watch it. But
right.
with Netflix, you stream.
Mhm,
Well, that's what we're doing. Okay, we stream. We have a streaming thing that literally can get your data within seconds, instantly. All
hmm,
right. Now, 2019, I would never have been able to speak like that.
yeah.
I just wouldn't. And it's just, and here's what it comes down to. It's got to come from the top, right? I mean, both of you guys, do you own your own MSP?
Mhm,
Mhm.
Okay, all
yep,
right. So it's the culture that you give to your employees. Okay, we are a backup and recovery company. We're not a PSA company. We're not an RMM company. We're not a networking company. We don't dabble in all this stuff.
right,
Every single thing that we do, every dollar that we make, every cent that we make goes into our development and goes into our go-to market strategy. Okay. And that is ingrained in our culture. How can we provide the smartest backup and recovery experience for our MSPs to be grandfathered on to their clients? Okay. And a streaming data is a strong, strong indication of that. Again, it was only 3 years ago that I had that talk, and here I am now with something that's completely different and better.
right. So let's talk a little bit more on you mentioned on how you all are bringing this to market, trying to really re-educate all those on how backup and recovery are really should be handled, how they should be viewed, especially in the current times. Um, I know you mentioned you have a partner program. How are you helping partners kind of well, not brainwash, but like get rid of the brainwash that they had so far of backup and recovery, of what they know, to kind of learn kind of what should be done, and with the methodologies that you guys are offering with your products? Can you tell us a little bit more about how you handle your partner programs over at Redstor?
Okay. All right. I'm going to do a social experiment here. Paco, what city are you in?
Chicago.
But what specific? Is it?
Chicago.
Oh, okay.
Chicago.
So you're
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
you're in
yeah. I'm
downtown.
downtown Chicago. I'm not like
Okay.
everyone else
Oh,
where it's
that
like
claims there.
Chicago,
Okay.
Maryland,
All
Chicago.
right.
and oh
Perfect.
yeah, no, you should hear my rants in
Yep.
previous. No, I'm in proper Chicago. I'm in
Pro-
downtown Chicago, baby, West Loop.
Okay. Okay. I know exactly. All right. I know exactly where you are. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Now, if I was to tell you, Paco, there's this place, this Italian restaurant that I'm on the road, what, 40 weeks of the year. I've been to Italy. I spent a lot of time in the Bronx as well as on Arthur Avenue, and I said I've never had a better Italian food at this place called Paco's in the West Loop. Okay, I said I never had it. It's going to create some sort of intrigue with you, right?
Sure.
You're gonna want to try it.
Yep.
Okay. All right. It's the same type of thing with what our approach is. Okay. You're not going to get the pushy salespeople. Okay. You're not going to get, this in your face type of marketing type of thing. What we're going to do at Red Store is we're going to allow our product to speak for itself.
Mm,
Okay. We are going to create the intrigue of the innovation of our solution by conversations like this, and another one that I have in about an hour, one that I had last week, at the different shows. Okay, so what's going to happen from there is that partners, all right, is going to go onto our website, and it says, do you want to become a Red Store partner? You click on that, and again, it's literally just a couple clicks, and then bam, what happens is that you're now a Red Store partner, and it's free for 30 days. Okay, which you could cancel at any time. At which point he says, okay, well, good. I'm a Redstor partner. What does that mean? Well, there's two different ways that you can train. There's a training module, which it could in real time. You can go whenever you want. Or you could actually, what would happen is that one of our PAMs will give you a call and say, "Okay, let's help you on board. Let's get you where you're feeling comfortable." Okay, so it's a different approach as opposed to, okay, we got to set up a time for our hardware, this that, and it shortens the sales cycle because again, it's our product evolution is intriguing to enough for people to want to go and see it. We've had a record August on this approach. Okay, absolutely. It's just again, we want to be able to work with you on your time, what you're comfortable with, and again, not throw things down, throw on as far as like on a sales and marketing. Okay, because
Sure.
that what all that does is just turns off the MSP. All right. Once you're a partner, we have what we call an all access program. Okay. And with that, you're going to get your MDFs, you're going to get your NFR, you're going to get your discount as you go into a higher tier. You're going to get those co branded webinars. You're going to get, all the different fun stuff, the nurture campaigns, the drip campaigns. You're going to get the surveys. You're going to get, any type of, infographics, postcards, whatever the case may be, you're going to need. But what we're really different on is the messaging. And
Mhm.
and that's like we have a multi-million-dollar marketing department right there that is to make sure that we're getting the right messaging on there. Because how many times I don't know too many people that looked at a postcard and was like, yeah, I'm going to buy from them because they have a cool postcard. But what you have to do is you have to make sure that the messaging is correct, right?
Right.
Now, let me give you an example. All right. Not only are we appealing towards MSPs, but we're also appealing towards end users. Okay. So let's just say that, whatever the case, that law firm sees our technology out there and wants to be part of that Redstor experience. Literally can go onto redstore.com. All right. And they have their own little section where they could sign up and they say, okay, where are you from? Well, I'm from Chicago. Well, guess what? Your name, Paco, is going to come up because you're one of our partners. And then they're going to click on you and they're going to give you a call. And that's how they can begin the relationship.
Hmm.
We are a channel only company. We're always going to be channel only company. But again, it's a lead generation for our MSPs to let them know that we're out there helping them.
Very cool. Well, we'll go ahead and wind out on, we've talked about the partner program. We've talked about how you can improve services. We've talked about how really they can, managed service provider, IT solution providers can save money and time. What is the commitments? What are the pricing structure?
Sure.
How does that work with Redstor?
No commits, which is really cool.
Okay.
Look, how many people, did we have to speak to in 2020, that were on the bottom of the K curve and, you know, hospitality bars and they could not pay their bills,
Yeah.
and with us, we keep in, there's just so many external factors out there, war, pandemic, that no, we don't have commits, so you literally, you're only paying for what you back up. Now we have a EULA, but we don't have a um, we're not going to hold you to a specific number if that's not what you're backing up. So one of the cool things about being cloud first is let's just say that you want to back up, 3.5 terabytes. Okay, well you're only going to pay for 3.5 terabytes that you're backing up. If next month that goes down to 2.5, then that's what you're paying is 2.5.
Mm.
Historically, you'd have to buy a box for what, twice the size of,
Right.
10 terabyte box, and you're paying for that 10 terabytes, even though you're only backing up 3.5. So that's a smarter pricing strategy. So that's one of the things that you're going to see where we have a record number of signups in September, and that was a major reason why. So people are still getting the same service, but what they're doing is that they're able to take a big chunk out on what they're charging, which is creating higher margins for them.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, we're out rounding out at the end of the show here, Matt. Is there anything that we haven't touched on or haven't
No,
chatted about on Redstor or anything as far as offerings, partner programs, just in general?
no, not at all. I mean, you know what? I've been asked this numerous times, and I probably said this to you last time we talked. Is just like, is there? I always get, what's the final word? What's the final thing you want to say? And my answer is nothing. And the reason being, like, if you're taking time, you're an MSP and you're taking your time to listen to this podcast or webinar. What is it, a podcast or webinar?
Podcast,
All
video
right.
podcast.
Yeah, both, right?
Little
But
from
if you're
column A, little from column B.
Yeah, if you're an MSP and you're taking your time to listen to this, that means you care. That means you care about your business. You want to know what's the latest and the greatest that's out there. You want to know what trends are. You want to hear from, cybersecurity experts. And when you're doing stuff like that, I applaud you. I applaud you. That means you're going into the right direction. So, with Rick and Paco, as well as the people that are watching it, I feel honored to be sharing this time with you.
Appreciate it. Rick, any lasting words of insight from the mind of Mr. Smith?
Well, I do want to thank you, Matt, for taking the time to explain to us a little bit more about Redstor. And you guys know how I feel about it. And I say this with most vendors. I'm not necessarily recommending any vendor for you to use, but the people we bring on here, we think just add, quality to the show. And, we bring on people and products that we think could help your business. So I'll say it this way: when it comes to backup, and I'm sure I'm not saying this to any MSP who doesn't know this, it is probably one of the most important things, we need to consider in our quote unquote stack. And how we approach it, is really, again, go back to that time factor. So again, Matt, thanks so much for sharing with us today, giving us a little more insight. And I'm going to leave it there.
Sounds good. Yeah, no, like kind of echoing what I said, what Rick said. Scully, really appreciate you taking out the time to chat with us this morning. A lot of people who know me, I don't co-sign for a lot of people. There are very few people I co-sign for, let alone say that are friends. Matt Scully is one of them. So,
I feel the same way, bud.
So I appreciate that. So, so I can say that, although we don't, we don't specifically endorse businesses and vendors and companies that we may not be using ourselves, but anybody that Matt attaches themselves has been legitimate. That's how I've been able to adopt products previous of where he was as well. So, like I said, it gives major credibility. If Redstor already had that credibility already, Matt just went ahead and added that tenfold, especially as he tries to spread their message. So again, Scully, really appreciate you taking the time this morning. And we hope to have you back, and look forward to running into you in some of the trade shows here coming up in the end of the year / the new year that's coming up in 2023.
You got it, brother. Appreciate you, man.
Awesome. Well, everyone, I appreciate you all tuning in today. If you want to hear more content like this, tune in every Tuesday and Thursday. Watch the video podcast on youtube.com/MSP Unplugged, facebook.com/MSP Unplugged. We are also on LinkedIn and on Twitter, #MSP Unplugged. Any of those platforms, you can go ahead and like, subscribe, hit any of the notifications on any of those platforms. If you prefer to take us on the go and listen to us on audio, we are on your favorite podcatcher. We are on a few major ones like Amazon Music, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Most importantly, we want to thank you again, and we appreciate you listening, and we will see you next time on MSP Unplugged.